All right, guys, welcome back. Today I'm here with Farah. She lives with me in the UAE, and I thought it'd be interesting if I was able to give you guys a bit of a look into where I live, actually. So, Farah, introduce yourself.
Hi. Thanks for having me. So yeah, my name's Farah, and I also am a rising senior in the UAE. So I go to the same school. Um, 17, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So, our country, at least obviously compared to the US, we're doing a lot better. We had a lockdown for a bit. The cases went down pretty low, at least for us in Abu Dhabi. They even put like a split between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, right? But for us recently, the cases have actually been beginning to spike again. This could be just because people are getting infected more often or because of more cases. It's really hard to tell, but right now there definitely is a noticeable difference between how they're kind of implementing this school because for us, like they delayed going back to school for another 4 weeks, right? Um,
Yeah.
for you, I asked Justin this as well in the last interview. For your family, on a scale of like not caring to like really being like super safe for the coronavirus, where do you think you are on that kind of spectrum?
Well, I think there's a matter of necessity, and then there's a matter of like, what do you want to do? I think that in terms of like as a family unit, we're leaning more towards like we don't really go out as much. For example, my dad works in Dubai, and he's been needing to go into work sometimes. Like the last 2 weeks, I think he's gone and had to cross the border every day, like every work day. And so, in that sense, you might consider us a little careless, but he does need to go for work. Um,
Yeah.
like the UAE has been lauded as, having had the best response to the virus. And I am generally trusting of what they do. I know that there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't really see and know often. Um, and I think I'm seeing that they're being a little hesitant just to send us back to school, regardless of the rising cases now. So I think that's good. And, at the minimum, we're seeing some level of understanding of the situation. So I think that's good.
Yeah. Also, for the people that you know, do you feel like, at least for your community, have they responded appropriately to the virus, or are they some of the people that you feel like are contributing to the problem?
I think there's different levels,
Hmm.
uh, but I think that goes without saying for everywhere. There are some people who are still kind of careless, but there are people who are very aware of the fact that we are in a pandemic.
Yeah.
It's hard to constantly be aware and conscious and everything, but within my circles, at least, I feel like people are still pretty conscious of that. There are definitely most people I think are slipping, back towards normal. So people are like ordering takeout or maybe going out to malls instead of just like staying indoors, things like that. But I don't think it's to an endangering extent. I think most people are still pretty conscious and they're not pushing it. So I think that's also good.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I see a lot of people, they go outside, but they do wear masks. They're not like just randomly doing whatever, right? So I think as long as there's always at least some sort of social distancing, like if you look at Korea, um, they had pretty strong restrictions at the beginning, but they actually loosened them. They weren't super bad. Everyone was wearing masks though. Like everyone was super conscious of it. No one was like going to the beach or whatever, right? They were going to malls and everything, but they had masks on. And I mean, they've had recent like surges recently, but they definitely did really well in their response compared to some other countries who might not have worn masks as often. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think when you look at it like that, I think for us, our community's done pretty good, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of us, there's definitely that safety net of knowing that I personally have confidence in the UAE government because I think they're generally good at planning. Um, whereas if you compare it to certain governments that you think like some people view as pretty reckless, um, you know, knowing that you have a competent government definitely helps you feel like it's easier to fall in line with restrictions that you generally might not like, and it's good comfort. It's like that things could be a lot worse.
So I'm sure all of us know that right now the US is probably the biggest known case in which coronavirus has really spread. Obviously, we all know that. For you, what do you think was or is the biggest issue that really caused the coronavirus to really become such a large deal in the US comparatively to some other countries?
um okay, well, I think the biggest weakness in how the US often responds to things is the fact that everything is so politicized. And I think partisan divides in the US make it very easy for things to be very polarized. there's often, in any big issue going to be two opposites that are very strongly opposing one another. And the perfect example is the whole issue with mask protests. Like, it's something so trivial to certain cultures to whom it's very normal to adhere to things that the government tells you. Like, people are going in the streets and saying, I don't want to wear a mask. I want to go get my hair cut. I think people love to argue about things to the point where it's so difficult to properly carry anything out, down to fundamental things like social distancing, so we don't have such a large chunk of our population contracting a virus.
Mm.
And I think it's easy to like see the fact that this kind of makes it hard to respond well or respond effectively at all, even if you don't think the response is right. It's hard to get things done when this is the mentality that your population has. So
Yeah. So for us, obviously, like everywhere else in the world, coronavirus has had a huge impact. I just wanted to see your insight into how you think the coronavirus has shaped your perception of really the future. Most importantly, because we're seniors, obviously, this college application process. How do you feel like that's been for you recently?
well, for me, I think there's a few reasons that I feel like it really has a significant impact on my future. So the first of which is obviously the fact that we're seniors, and a lot of the things that we're doing right now are very life determining. So, for example, our applications have a lot of ramifications in the future. Um, a big part for me is that I want to live in the States in the future, but I'm not a citizen. So for me, um, things kind of start with the college application process, really. Like, that kind of kickstarts my ability, and seeing all the uncertainty surrounding everything, especially in the States right now, um, makes it feel like a lot of aspects of my future are a lot more uncertain.
Yeah. And I've also been hearing because we do the IB curriculum, right? A lot of people in the US do the AP, so they might not know. But for us, our school actually, they delayed their mock exams from March or May last year to like right now, September and October. They don't even know the day right now. It's possible that it might not even occur from what we're looking at. I've heard you talk about how like your friends are also like super, uncertain with how they're going to do, especially if they're like applying to UK or Canada. How do you feel like just everything like mocks, also like SATs and everything, just how uncertain it is? Do you feel confident in your application process as a whole? I've been hearing that like people are like, should I give my SAT or not? I don't know.
Yeah. So that's another area that I think things become a lot more challenging in, because there's obviously more things for you to consider. Before, it was like, how well can I do on my SAT? Now it's like, well, I've done my SAT this many times. I don't know if my score is good enough for these schools. Should I redo it for these schools? And then there's the added factor of, for us, our dates are so jumbled up. Like you mentioned, our mocks, we don't even know when they're going to be. I was planning on redoing my SAT in October, but it's looking like that's going to be before mocks, and I don't want to have to do my SAT while I'm studying. I
Yeah.
know for me, my application, there are a lot of things that timing wise are inconvenient. So, for example, mocks are definitely, I'm going to be studying in the time that usually you would want to be applying. Um, I kind of anticipated a lot of these issues in terms of timing, and I tried to work on my application, or at least get started during the summer, which I think helped a lot. But it's still definitely an area where there's a lot of anxiety. For example, last year's seniors, the ones who were about to start college, their final grades dropped so much because there was a lot of issues with final grades this year with the IB, that they got their offers in Europe rescinded, and now they're going to like state schools in the US for situations like that. So I know a lot of my friends who are applying to the UK for next year are having similar issues because they were really depending on their mocks for their apps. And yeah.
Yeah. For you, has the recent coronavirus epidemic kind of shaped or changed how you feel about going to the US, especially considering that maybe next year it might be just as bad, or I don't know, it just might be different in some ways.
Um, I mean, like, to be totally honest, no, because for me, this has been something that I've kind of been dreaming of for a long time. It's something that's become very fundamental to who I consider myself. Like, I feel like going to the US aligns so well with who I am and who I see myself being. So, to be totally honest, no, but I think, and I think this kind of hits on a very difficult point when it comes to this pandemic, where in that you don't really, you can't anticipate how things are going to play out, because I'm confident enough in my ability to get into a college and be in the States for the next 4 years. But I don't know how, like, the ramifications of everything that's happening right now, um, in 4 years' time, when I'm actually going to be needing to, find a job and actually permanently stay there. Um, it's so difficult to anticipate these things from a small scale of, I don't know if me not having my mocks grades when I apply is going to affect me, to I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay in the country of my choice, um, and that's obviously one of the biggest difficulties. It's so hard to anticipate and plan into the future. So I think for me, I'm fortunate enough that I have the privilege to be able to generally rely on the fact that I will be able to stay in the States if I want to. Um, it is honestly, gonna play out how it is. I can't really anticipate that, but it is still in my plan. So
Yeah. All right. I want to move the focus back to the UAE, back to where we are. So I wanted to ask how your life in the UAE specifically has been since the quarantine has started. I think since what, March or April now?
yeah. Well, I think one thing that has been really different in quarantine is I've tried to focus a lot on self improvement, and it wasn't even really on purpose. I just found myself looking at things that I wanted to kind of accommodate my own, like, preferences for how I wanted my life to look. So, for example, I work a lot better in the mornings. I like to have my work done by noon. It feels really good to know that I don't have anything else to do, for like 10 hours. So I started waking up like a lot earlier, and like having an alarm even on weekends, and having a set bedtime. And I think I also really like having routine in my life. So having that helped a lot. And then I picked up reading again, which was something that I kind of stopped doing. And I found myself really enjoying doing it again. And I have tried to kind of make it more habitual. So it's not just like I feel like reading whenever and I'll read whenever. Um, Same thing with exercising. I've never been the kind to exercise of my own volition, and I just kind of found myself doing it. So a lot of these things, because we've been in quarantine for so long, I didn't realize I kind of started doing them because we were in quarantine, and I had so much time on my hands that I just was kind of forced to examine how I was living my life. I like had no distractions. There was no, I have something 3 months away to worry about. Like I was at a point where I really did not have anything to worry about. It is difficult, everything's kind of upended. Nothing is how it usually is. And it might be kind of a petty privileged complaint, but I did find it really hard to adjust to a lot of things. And so I think it's kind of, like not impressive, but it's a good thing that I have been able to. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been great that the quarantine really has a ton of people to kind of explore stuff that they normally wouldn't. I know a few people who have YouTube channels and they like skyrocketed in like April or May. There was like one that's like I forgot, it was like using your Samsung tablet to draw or something, and it like went insane. But yeah, I think there's always been it the quarantine has brought a little bit of good along with it. Of course, there's so much that's happening in the world right now, but I think it's been great for a lot of people like you, who have been
Yeah.
able to really improve their lives and such. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think like that time with yourself really, like if you want to, you can like reevaluate a lot of things. Like it's made me realize that I'm really grateful for that day-to-day exposure to my friends. Like I kind of, not that I underestimated it, but it's good every once in a while, even if it's for 6 months, to realize like how much these things matter to you. So I think if you look at it that way.
yeah. Okay. All right, that's great. Thank you so much for coming, Farah. Thanks for all the stuff you've told us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's Eric. Just a quick update. You might have seen that we actually have a logo now. It's in the thumbnail, and it was in the introduction, which I think is really great. And also, I'm going to probably be hosting a fundraiser soon. I just want to raise a little bit of money that I can donate and send towards fighting against coronavirus all around the world, especially in these third world nations. Really, any amount would help, and I'd be super thankful if you guys would like to participate in that. So I'll let you guys know when that happens. And if you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe. Thanks. Bye bye.